Hello and welcome to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. Full-time professional freelance photographer Tony Reddington started his journey into photography early in his life, beginning with childhood memories of family snapshots and evolving through various cameras and techniques. Tony travels frequently to capture the intrinsic beauty of natural landscapes and the people and cultures he finds along the way. We talk about the importance of physical prints, his distinctive dark and shadow-rich style, and the blend of genres in his work ranging from architecture to documentary. Tony also touches on the transition from film to digital photography and maintaining creative inspiration. He offers insights into freelancing, the value of educating clients, and recounts memorable photography experiences. I hope you enjoy the show. G'day, Tony. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
I'm good, Grant, and you? Thanks for having me on. You're a long way away from where I am, but hey, the wonders of technology.
Yeah, it's a marvellous way of reaching out to people across the world, and I've been lucky enough to talk to a lot of people. Whereabouts are you? It looks like you're in a fascinating location.
I'm actually in Oaxaca, in Mexico. It's spelled actually Oaxaca.
Cool.
So it's a Zapotec or a Natul word. So yeah, the pronunciation, I've heard a lot of versions of it, including the ones I started off with.
Fair enough. I'm interested in exploring the motivations of photographers, and I guess why don't we start with you giving us a bit of a précis about how you became a photographer and what it means to you and why you keep doing it.
I suppose one of my earliest memories of photographs would have been the shoebox being taken out when people came to visit when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And there was all the snapshots and people gathered around and they took out the shoebox and this was your great aunt and this was whoever and oh, do you remember her? And sometimes so that would have been my earliest memory sort of all photography, the little square ones and the various bits like that. And then at some stage I remember my father, he got one of those, I think it was a Kodak, but it was almost like the James Bond spy one. They were little, I think they were a 126 cartridge.
Oh yeah. You slide in, slide out sort of thing.
Yeah, you slide in and slide out to make it work. And then he got a Polaroid, one of the ones with the bellows. And I still remember the sort of the smell of the stuff that you had to rub on because when you opened, you developed the thing, and then you had to wait a while, and then you had to rub if memory serves, a pinky purpley kind of a color.
Yeah,
it was a very distinct smell off of it.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I got a camera that was in the house, 126, the little cassettes. You drop them off to the chemist.
Yep.
Because there was nobody else. And you got back your thing like a while later with the pictures and whatever. And then at some point I bought an SLR. It wasn't a DSLR, an SLR.
Yep.
And I remember trying to load it for the first time and trying to wheel in the film into it and stuff like that. And I just got fascinated with the idea that moments were captured. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but you were capturing stuff.
Yeah.
Somehow they were going to be kept.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I miss about the film thing is that you actually had a hard copy. So showing that somebody, or when people came around, as opposed to taking out the computer or the tablet and flicking through them, there's something not quite the same as when you had the physical paper in your hand. And then I went off, did some other stuff in my career. I always was taking photographs wherever I was, and getting more bits and pieces and blowing money on camera kit and stuff. And then I wound up doing some exhibitions and was working for a company and they needed someone to photograph their products. So I wound up doing that. And again, it's all evolved. It's the long story, but round numbers, that's the way it is. And I still enjoy doing it.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, you don't do just landscape photography. A lot of your work is journalistic in style in terms of some of your other non-landscape work. What made you turn towards some of the landscape stuff along the way?
I suppose landscapes are one of the things that every photographer kind of starts out with.
Sure.
Because it's there and it's easy and it doesn't move.
You don't have to talk to anyone or get them to move into the right spot.
No, you maybe the odd sheep that you got to move out of the way, but it's basically it's there, and you get a kind of a feel for as well with landscape, with the light, particularly like in Ireland, the light is weird. Like daytime, in the summertime, you can have it bright until 10, 11 o'clock at night, but it's a different kind of brightness.
Yeah.
And the way that will play off of the landscape and off of, because it's again rainy there, so you can have puddles of water and how it's going to affect that. And then you have kind of, so you learn quite a bit actually playing with landscape photography and also making it look better. I think probably most people, if you live in a city, okay, you're going to start off with cityscapes, but if you live in a rural area, landscapes are your thing. And get a picture of the family, that's where you start. Everyone probably does.
Sure.
One way or another. And then because of what I was doing and living in various places, I moved into doing other things. And because I worked at installing big pieces of glass into like big buildings.
Yep.
I got interested. I was always interested in architecture anyhow, and engineering and how things work. So architecture was sort of the next thing. I'm talking about architecturally designed buildings opposed to say standard houses.
Yeah.
And the way the light plays on that and the way they think about stuff. And then the other bit, the sort of is a kind of a journalistic documentary. I just have a kind of a thing. I enjoy watching people, observing people.
Yeah.
So watching people and watching reactions and stuff, that's where that came along.
Okay. And I guess I'm really interested in what is it that motivates you creatively? What are the things that you look at and you go, oh, I've got to shoot that?
With some landscapes, you see them and you say, okay, I need to come back to that in a better light. Yep. I know there's something there. It's the same with architectural photographs. You see something and you say, okay, I know the sun is going to come around the other side of that, and I know there's another photograph in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not always possible to go back to a place. If it's around your home, yes, you can go back. But sometimes you're in a location and you're like, I got to get this. And you do take a photograph, but it's not quite what you're looking for. Yep. Sometimes as you grow older or more skilled or more whatever it is, you can actually edit that photograph back to something that you do remember it to be. And with the kind of street photography documentary kind of thing, that's just whatever is there in front of you. You got to try and get the picture.
Yeah, yeah. Do you go into a landscape with a preconceived idea about, you're talking there a lot about coming back to a place, so you see it in the wrong light, or you're looking at it, say, in the morning, and you go, okay, this is going to look really good because there's a Western aspect to it, and when the sun goes down, that's going to look fantastic. Yeah. So that pre-visualization, is that an important part of your work, do you think?
This isn't a get out of jail answer. It is and it isn't. There are some landscapes and there are some things that I photographed and I'm thinking, oh, I want to go back to that. I want to get that at a different time. And it hasn't always been possible. one of the places I did photograph was that Horseshoe Bend in Arizona.
Sure.
Everyone has photographed it. I did happen to get it in the evening, and as I was leaving, there were guys showing up with tripods, neutrality filters, and they were obviously going to camp out for the night and maybe get, I don't know if the orientation was right for a Milky Way, but they were actually looking for something in the sunlight. They lived there. I didn't, so it wasn't a case of I could have gone back.
Yeah.
If I were to go back, I would probably go back again, similar to them. But again, some of those locations, like Horseshoe Bend, they're so photographed that it's okay. I got a photograph of it. I could say I got a photograph of it, but there's a million other photographs of it.
It's my interpretation, but I've probably stood where hundreds of or thousands of others have stood.
Oddly, oddly, that is one of the places where to really get a photograph, there are two rocks and you have to lay down between it. You almost have to take your turn, and there's no room really to do anything unless you have some, I don't know, maybe there's some way of doing it, but not the easiest thing. And as I said, people lining up to do it. Same with going through the slot canyons, the Antelope Canyon, for argument's sake. Same thing, you're on a tour, and you can do a tour with photographers, but it's the Navajo Nation that run it. So unless you say, okay, I want to be by myself, and you take it and you get it at specific times or whatever, you're kind of almost run and gun with them. Again, I did drive across the US, Arizona, New Mexico, all that, and they're just like, you wait 5 seconds and the light is different. And if you live there, you probably know what's coming and where to be. And I've been quite fortunate in that I've been in the right place at the right time for a few photographs, like Bryce Canyon. I was there, it was during COVID, got in late. It was the 5th of July, I think it was just after the 4th of July celebrations. And I got up, I had no idea like where. I had been driving by and said, oh, Bryce Canyon, I read about that somewhere, I'll go. Got in, and there was one other photographer there, nobody else really in the thing. And I was like, okay, Thor's Hammer, where do I go? And I just managed to get into the right place just to get the sun coming through the little, what do you call it? Fortunate. Yeah, right place, right time. But there was no plan in that one. I have done, say, a photograph in North Mayo, near my hometown. It's a cave, and there's a sea stack in front of it. And pretty much there are only 2 times in the year you can go there, which are spring tides. You have to wait for the tide, and so long as it's going to be calm, you can walk to it, or you could take a boat to it, but it's sketchy enough to do. But the rest of the time, the floor of the cave, it's the Atlantic Ocean that's in it. That one I did plan, and I did see where somebody had actually shot, I think it was the Northern Lights out of that cave. So they had obviously done a lot of planning, because the Northern Lights decided to do their stuff, and they got the cave because it's actually looking north. So it was a fair play to them for doing it, because I wouldn't like to be in that cave in the dark. In the winter. But again,
amazing. Do you think it's important, though, to have goals in your photography? And do you set yourself mini or large scale projects to work on to build a portfolio or build a body of work around a particular area or something?
I think for me, and because I do quite a bit of the architecture thing, I have so many photographs of architecture that I'm always looking at that. And over the course of years, like I was actually found some photos earlier where I'd taken them maybe 12 years ago. So if you're going to say it's a 12-year project, that I took all that time ago, and wherever I go, I'm always trying to take those photographs. Same as if somebody is doing, I suppose landscapes they're all very different, but It's okay, I'm going to do, there's a rock or there's a tree in the middle of it. So if I see something somewhere, even if it's not the best light, whatever it is, I'm going to stop it. That photograph, it's in my archive. I have it there. Sure. I can go back with it. Do I set out for 6 months to do a project? No, I don't. But I have, over the years, built up a lot of photographs that I have taken of things that could be curated into projects, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of your style, how you were asked, and I guess you are being asked, how would you describe it? How would you describe your style?
Probably dark.
Okay.
When I say dark, I do like shadows, and I do, which is why I do a lot in black and white. I do the tonal ranges of things, and I do the darkness, and I do the dark to highlight the highlights, if that makes sense, to try and bring out what I'm doing as best I can in camera. It doesn't always work, and again, you go to places like the Arizonas, the New Mexicos, places like that. I'm sure there are places in Australia, and it's just bright, and the stone is brown, and there isn't an awful lot of darkness around. So then you have to work with the colors. That you have, and the blue skies and stuff. But generally speaking, I would go for, I like the idea of shadows and leaving little bits for people to find in the image.
You've shot around the US and the Americas, I'll call it, because that's more than just the US. And I guess I'm interested in what's made a guy from Mayo in Ireland abandon all the greens and blues and greys that are there and go for the browns and yellows and ochres that are in the American deserts.
Some years ago, when was it, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was at a point in my life, kids grown, doing their own thing. And I hadn't traveled a lot when I was younger. So I set myself, I just said, I'm doing it. I'm going to travel. And I was fortunate enough to get into a sort of a job where I could work for 3 months and take a couple of months off.
Nice.
So I wound up going to various places, completely random, almost throw a dart at at the globe kind of thing. And I went to Cambodia. Oh no, I went to Colombia because I wanted to sail. There's a sailboat that goes from Colombia to Panama, and I wanted to do that. And my younger brother, had previously been to a lot of the South America. So there were places he had talked about, and my older brother used to winter in Thailand and Asia in the 80s. So I heard all their stories, and I was like, oh, I want to go to somewhere, but I want to go to the same areas, but maybe not the exact same places.
Yeah, right.
So I was kind of like, okay, I have some time in my pocket. I'm going. So I went to various places, took my camera along, and photographed whatever was there. Some places I didn't even know that. I went to Tahiti. It's a kind of an odd story, but anyhow. And I didn't know Teahupo'o, I can never pronounce it. The big wave that they're currently surfing, I think, in the I actually didn't know that was there. I knew it was somewhere there, but I didn't know it was there.
Yeah. Right.
And I was like, wound up, I got like a little cabin. And for some reason, the owners, who I'm still in contact with, and it's years since I was there, but they mistook my name for Toni. So I had this little cabin, but they had put the mosquito net up and everything, but it was pink, and they had put little flowers on the bed for me.
Nice.
Yeah. And they were like really surprised when I got there. But anyhow, so then I was like, oh, can we go out? The guy had a boat because it was on the sea and everything inside the reef. And he was like, and there was another guy I met. He was from Austria, and his girlfriend. And we just asked about, would you take us out on the boat? We pay you, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
he said, no, just take the boat. I'm like,
Wow.
no, no, we're not going anywhere near that bad boy with your boat. But we did go out, and it wasn't, and there weren't people surfing. There was some windsurfing going on, but it's still bloody big and break. And there were some whales. So we were doing a little whale watching as well. And the captain was spending more time on the whale watching, and we had drifted into where that bad boy was breaking. And he was like, throttle to the stop, get their asses out of there. One of those times when it's like, oh, if you had a GoPro video camera and it's attached to you, God, but it was more hold on to the boat and I hope we don't get capsized. And I was in Maui another time, and Jaws obviously there. And because there is surfing, Mullaghmore is actually a very big surf thing, which is only 45 minutes from my home. So Jaws, everyone has heard about it. So I was like, okay, I want to do this. I get some photographs. And I only had a lens. And yeah, they're a long way away.
Yeah.
There were some guys there with 800s and various things. But I did get to see part of that. And then just up from that, there's another place, I think it's called Huaquipa. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but there's windsurfing going on there, and that's pretty spectacular. And oh yeah, and then in Maui there is Haleakala, which is and that one I did. I was like, yes, I'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I will go there to get that. And I did get there and get some photographs of it. It is actually pretty spectacular to watch the sunrise over the clouds. So when I'm saying I don't plan things, that's not strictly true. But sometimes it's more, oh, I'm in this place. This is here, so I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
I didn't go to Maui to photograph Haleakala.
Yeah.
That kind of.
And so how long have you been on the road on and off?
About 10 years.
Yeah, wow.
Like when I went up driving across the US, I was in Guatemala. I was asked to go to the US to do a small project. And when I got there, COVID happened and I couldn't leave. Yeah. And then I extended my visa, and then there were some guys asked me, it was a Belgian operation, and they said, could you do some stuff for us? And I was like, okay. And they gave me a car. They wanted me to fly, and I didn't want to fly. It's not that I'm afraid of flying. I'm here. I have time to get from place to place. There's not a major panic. So give me a car. And they did.
Nice.
And I went out driving from San Diego up to Seattle, drove over from Seattle to New Jersey, back and forth. We didn't get to go everywhere I wanted, but it was weird because a lot of places were closed and you didn't get to meet a lot of people. Like I had no reason to go to Vegas. It's not one of my places I want to go, but it was closed. So that was weird, going around there.
And going around the strip when there's nobody around,
when there's no one around. But the other thing is, because there's no one around, the people that are around are not the kind of people you want to be meeting late at night. Because,
fair enough.
Again, some of the things, because they're not in use and there aren't people around, but they're still lit up.
Yeah.
So getting them at night is when you want to do it, but the people that are around at night are not the kind of people you want to be meeting at night.
Yeah, not when you got 10 or 20 grand's worth of
exactly
in your hands.
Yeah. So it was dragging that around. But I did get some interesting photos from there.
Wow.
And same with some of the other places. Like, as I said, Bryce Canyon, going back to it, because it was during COVID, there was no one really there. Whereas I'm sure at another time, there's probably 1,000 people trying to get that photograph. So,
sure.
Pluses, minuses.
yeah. What does success look like for you in your photography?
I suppose there are there there's probably two things in it. One is when I nail the photograph, when I
Yep.
actually see when I see that photograph and that's what I wanted to photograph, or as close as possible to it.
Yeah, yeah.
The other one is when somebody buys it. When somebody buys a piece of my work, is
Yep.
it's a pretty big thing. You know, it's yeah. There's a lot of that's amazing. It's blah blah blah. But when somebody actually takes money out of their pocket or out of their wallet or whatever it is and gives it to you for that image that you created, then yeah, that's probably it. Success. I can't think of anything else really. Awards wouldn't be, you know, awards wouldn't be, oh, I want to get that. I want a prize. I want to be, it'd be nice to get something like that, but I'm not going out to look for it, that
You're
kind of
not
award.
chasing it. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not chasing an award.
I'm interested in how, I guess, your freelancing came about. What is it that I guess made you choose that as a full-time career, and when did you and how did you make that decision to go full-time?
It was a whole series of things. What I was doing sort of full time, that sort of dried up, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can make a go out of something that I actually really like doing.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not as lucrative as people would seem to think it is. There's a lot of hard work in it, and there's a lot of chasing dead ends and things like that.
Yeah.
And there are people, I'm sure, that are actually, no, I'm going to rephrase this when you say lucky enough. There are probably a tiny handful of people that have been lucky enough and pure luck. Most of the people that are actually successful is they've actually done an awful lot of groundwork and stuff behind the scenes that nobody
Yeah,
is
it's
aware
it's
of.
rare that anyone just suddenly appears fully formed as a professional photographer.
Yeah, that's just not how it happens.
Yeah.
And through various things, and look, I still get the requests to photograph something. Oh, we'll give you beer or whatever. And it's no, that's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, in fairness here, I do some stuff for some small, and
Okay.
they would, when they're making their mezcal, they might make a batch of 20 liters at a time. That's
Oh, wow.
small.
Okay.
They don't have a marketing budget. They don't have,
Yeah.
and so I'll do something for them to get them some photographs, and I'll wind up with a bottle of mezcal or something like that.
Mhm.
And I don't have a problem doing that if somebody is really just starting out and but if some big operator comes along, I said, no, come on, you have a budget for that. You had a budget to get your secretary to contact me.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that. But as I do, and I know some of the people here that buy the mezcals, so they know the people. And when you go and meet them, they're the kindest, most wonderful people in the world,
Yeah.
and they will feed you, and they're really proud of what they do, but they don't have the resources, and they're trying to make a buck. But the big guys are in, and they're making what they're doing, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, freelancing, there are some things that I won't do simply because I'm not able to or I don't have the equipment.
Yeah.
And some people say, oh, you need the camera. You don't need, it's not the equipment. It is. Like
Yeah.
at
In
a
certain
point,
circumstances, it absolutely is. Yeah.
you can't do it if you don't have the right gear, or you can't do it to the standard that you would expect yourself to do.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of weddings in my time. They are so much hard work. They're seriously hard work.
Mm.
And you do need the gear to
Yep.
do the wedding, to do the people justice, because you're charging them a fair hunk of change,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you want them to get the best possible results. And again, people say the cake is gone, the dress is faded, whatever, the album is still there. So, as I said, there are some things, no, I don't have the kit and I don't have the skill level to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be learning on somebody else's dime.
What's one of the most important things you've learned about running your own business?
Watch the pennies.
Yeah.
I suppose it'd be, don't pass up an opportunity or don't dismiss it out of hand, because you never really know when. Case in point, okay, a couple of weeks ago I was asked would I photograph an anniversary for a restaurant, and it was like, oh, we don't have a budget, but we'd be able to do something. And I'm like, okay, I know the place, I know you have a restaurant, I know you have Airbnb, I know you're selling bottles of mezcal at 3,000, 4,000 pesos, which is round number, say 200 US.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have the money.
Yeah.
And I was polite in how I answered. I said, look, doing this, you should have, but I didn't just say, fuck off.
Yeah.
There are some that I will bluntly tell them, go away. But when you have something like that and they say, okay, let them know, maybe try and educate a bit. So
yeah, I think what it sounds to me like you're trying to say is that you've got to educate your client as to the value of your actual hard work, because it is hard work, because you're going to spend maybe 2 or 3 hours, maybe 5 or 6 hours on site actually shooting, but that then equates to another 10, 15, 20 hours of editing just to give them the end product.
Yeah. So you're looking at essentially 2 days, 3 days worth of work.
Exactly. Yeah.
And people would think, oh, you take the photograph, because again, there's a lot of situations where you take out the latest iPhone, Samsung, Xiaomi, whatever they are, and you want a group photo or whatever you do, and they do amazing stuff. They so blood amazing. So why are you so that? And because I'm actually getting the moment, you're getting something that everyone is posing for. I'm trying to, in those situations, get the people where the people aren't posing. And if you're doing it with your phone, you're not going to do it.
I'm giving you a memory.
Yeah. And I suppose one of the things that I don't do, and I've often seen people, particularly in the US, do, where they say, oh, you should rent your equipment. If you're doing a shoot, you charge for the rental of your equipment.
Yeah.
And
that's an interesting take on it. Yeah.
No, I've never done that.
Yeah.
But if you had to go out and buy a specific lens to do a particular thing, you don't have it.
Yeah.
So what? One way or another, you're charging for it, because you have to build it into your price, or you have to. So people say, "Oh, you're charging one way or another." They break it out. Some places they break it out. Movies that's standard in if you're making some kind of movie, because you got to go and here.
Yeah.
But so that's not something that I've ever done, and I don't think I've ever had to rent a lens to do a specific job. But it is something that I have looked at. But I think where I am right now, that's not that's not going to be a runner.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm interested in any notable experiences that you've had while shooting. What's probably the most memorable thing that you've done?
There are always tales of daring do. One of the photographs I sent you, the waterfall in Namkulan.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the monks showering under the waterfall. And I'd rode, it was about 4 hours off-road dirt bike, hadn't been on a bike in forever, get to the place, and there's a descent down some kind of stones, rocks, whatever, of, I don't know, maybe 3 meters, something like that. And I was in full motocross gear, everything on my 250, I think it was.
Yep.
And I can't ride down those. I can't. I'm so tired, I will just fall. So I got the guy who had guided me, who only spoke Khmer. And I was like, we figured out he was going to take the bike down. And I was standing at the top of this little gradient or whatever, and a whole family, and not quite literally with the kitchen sink, but on a little Honda 50 or something, comes bouncing up, not a problem on them. And here's me with all my gear on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, so the waterfall, I was like, okay, to try and get that shot, I had to go into the plunge pool.
Right.
And couldn't have a tripod because it was too deep. But earlier, a couple of weeks, week or two beforehand, I got bitten by a spider on my, and it was one of those horrible ones that just won't heal. It just takes forever to, And of course, wearing the motocross boots didn't help it in the heat and humidity. So I'm standing in the plunge pool with this open sore wound, whatever, and trying to take this photograph. And all these little fish are fucking eating. And it's like trying to hold steady and trying to do it handheld to get the shutter speed long enough to get the water movement, but trying eyes not moving. That was one. The other one that always, when I say always, has often got me, again, I sent you another photograph. It was killing fields. Not expecting.
Right,
Just wasn't expecting that. And I read about it, I knew about it, I read like a lot of the books, Bright Shining Light, those kind of things. And but to actually be there, but also that kid was actually playing around on the DS, and there's all the skulls.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of a bit of a shock to me. Because it's not something we do in Ireland and a lot of places. You don't tend to have skulls. Okay, maybe they do in the catacombs or something, but you don't tend to have the skulls up and about and bits of bones.
Yeah.
And I had another one, it was in Guatemala City. And on the pillars outside the cathedral, there were all these names, 10,000, 50,000, whatever it is.
Yep.
And all the people that were tortured, disappeared, whatever it is and so I was like, there were a lot of names and they were very similar. So it was like a whole family disappeared. And again, there would be names of the Hohotenango, the villages that I had known about and passed through, and they're listed, and then the names. And those kind of things, when they come up, and you read about them, but when you see them kind of face on, they're strange, they're unsettling. Again, I had gone, talking about planned, I did go to, I forgot the name of the village, it was just outside Antigua in Guatemala. And in 20 the fuego erupted, and it pretty much wiped out a couple of villages. Plastic flow, they were wiped out. So I was like, I went there with another guy, and we said we'll try and photograph. And there was nothing to photograph. It's just ash, and the ash is up to the level of the eaves of the houses. And some of them they didn't get in, some it did. So, and there's toys and there's stuff there. And I think I'm probably walking around on top of people who were just engulfed by this, or so
absolutely.
Those kind of things that they do stick with me. Again, another one, it was in Arizona. There's the Painted Desert project where people do murals on abandoned motels, etc. And there was one said, how can you say the nuclear war is over, or something to that effect, when there are still people dying from uranium poisoning, because there's all the uranium mines there, and they're predominantly Navajo that are dying from it because they were being mined. So those kind of things. I'm not a social justice warrior, but those things do hit me hard. Come face to face with them.
Is there a particular spot that you keep getting called back to, a particular location that I guess you've got unfinished business with?
It's been done, so there's no point in trying to do the Northern Lights out of that cave in North Mayo. It's already been done. Look, I honestly, I wasn't ready for that question. there are some places that I would actually maybe like to camp out overnight and almost do a sort of a dawn to see just how light would play with it. Maybe more so in northern or maybe southern latitudes, not really necessarily where I am right now in the tropics or in the middle. I'd want to where the sun is fairly low in the sky.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about somewhere that you would like to retire to? Is there a location that you've been to that you just to say, all right, when I get in my dotage, this is where I'd like to be?
No, I think there are. I'd want no. I'd want to
You
be
want to keep
completely.
traveling?
No, I'd want to. I'd want to have enough money to be able to spend 3 months here, 3 months there, 3 months.
Yeah, right.
Where I am right now. In the only problem with this, I'm in Oaxaca de Juarez, which is the city. It's about 2 hours from the ocean.
Yeah.
It used to be about 7 hours because you had to go around the up and down the mountains to get there. But I grew up beside the ocean, so being beside the sea, but not the cold Atlantic that we get in Ireland. But no, there are a lot of places that I've been, and there's still a lot of places to go to and visit and see. No, I'll always have
Couldn't
a
nail
soft
one
spot.
down. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'll always have a soft spot for Ireland.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you prefer photographing alone or with other people?
I'm a loner.
Mm-hmm.
I am a loner because a lot of the times when you're doing something, it may be, no, I have photographed one or two other photographers who were also kind of loners.
Yep.
So you go off and do your own thing. You're not trying to, I've done.
You join up later and go and have a beer or a coffee or whatever.
Yeah, or you say, oh, and you point to them, maybe they have different gear. Maybe they have something and say, okay, you know what? You could probably get that with your gear.
Yeah.
They have a wide angle, they have a longer, whatever it is. But photographing with a group of people, which I've done a couple of times, mainly photo walk type things.
Yeah, sure.
They're a pain in the ass.
Fair enough.
And there's usually one person or maybe two, and they want everything. So if you line up, it's like there's a bloody lens over your shoulder or something like that. But if it is with somebody, and the other great thing is if you're photographing with someone that you know, they are instinctively thinking of something. If I see them going off on some direction, I'll pick up the camera bag or make sure the camera bag is closed and bring it with me because I know they're. Or if we said, okay, you're going, I'm fine here, and then you think of something, you're going to bring their gear with you. So whereas others they just wander off. So having someone that's actually aware and thinking the same as you is actually fun.
Yeah. What about when you get back? Are you straight into editing or are you one to let things marinate for a bit?
I'm straight into delete the ones that are out of focus, like badly out of focus. Get rid of them out of the thing. But I have found, because I've been going through archives recently, and there have been photographs that I had actually flagged to delete, but never got around to doing it. And I was like, now I know why I took that photograph. And it could be years ago that I took it, but I said, now I actually have the skills to actually bring that photograph to life, kind of how I saw it. Now, if it's completely out of focus or photograph in your pocket or the lens cap on or whatever, okay, you delete that. But there are actually a lot of photographs that are there, and even though they're maybe not the best in the world, they're either side of a good photograph, so they're actually a memory of taking that photograph. Some photographs, yes, I leave them to marinate. Some of them you just got to do them as quick as possible, but then there are others that they need a bit of time to stew, and sometimes that's weeks, sometimes it's months. And said sometimes I came across some ones that I had taken at a concert. I was like, oh, know what I was doing there. And also technology has improved a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Being able to clean up a noisy image is so easy now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose one of the things I would say is if it's even remotely, don't dump it.
Yeah.
If it's trash, all right, get rid of it. But if it's remotely, because you never know what you might be able to put into collage, or you might be able to do something with it. So
yeah, exactly. You may not see the benefit to it right now, but there might be something that you come back to in a little while. I'm always dipping back into the archive and going, oh, I missed seeing that the first time I looked through the folder, and there's something there and I can do something with that. As you say, whether it's as an individual image on its own or if you're using it elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you, seeing as
Go for it.
Did you start with digital or just start with film?
No, I started way back in the old days of film. I was about 10 when I got my hands on the first camera, and it was one of those, it was an Agfa 110 Instamatic. So one of those little thin cassette things, and had the little cube
the cube flash on it. Yeah, and it rotated each time.
And it would rotate as you, and a little slide on the bottom. So a little silver button on the top, a little slide.
Yeah.
And that was it. They were your controls. And the eyepiece was off to one side. So you never quite got the framing 100% right with it. Yeah, that was where I kicked off.
The reason I ask is going back to talking about going back through your archives. I know I have so many film 35 mils and even some 4x5s and stuff in. Never did medium format, but they're in a folder, binder.
Yeah.
And you hold them up to the light.
Yeah.
And there is something quite tactile. And if you delete it the way you delete a digital image, you'd have cut all your strips and you'd only have like individual.
That's it.
So
yeah.
So it is.
Oh, I've still got thousands of negatives, and I've also my father's slide collection. I've got that, and I did start digitizing that a few years ago, but got bogged down because A, there's so many of them, and B, it was taking up a hell of a lot of space after I'd digitized them. So I stopped doing that, but yeah, there's something about that physical media, even if it's a slide where you stick it into a projector and you project it on a wall, or you're looking at it through a viewer or something. There is something very different about, and as you say, very tactile about that sort of medium.
And there is also, I know it's a bit sidetracked, but they looking at Kodachrome or a Fuji, what were the Fuji, looking at them slides.
Yeah.
The color is like incredible.
Absolutely. Like, Dad used to use a lot of the old Agfa.
Yeah.
In the slides anyway. Some of the old prints have faded a bit if they've had any exposure to light, but on his slides, the color in them is just amazing. And I guess it's also that feeling of the age of them. He was taking them in the 50s and 60s, and there's these images. He was in the Navy, so he went to Hong Kong, Singapore, Penang, all that sort of thing back in those days. And so there's these shots of Hong Kong harbour with the old wooden junks and whatever, but none of the massive high rise that is there now. So you've got these records of what Hong Kong looked like back in the 50s and 60s. And I just love that sort of thing. And that recording of a moment, as you say, and being able to look at it now, 70, 80 years later.
Yeah, and like going back a little bit to why or what, or again, I think I sent you another, one of the other photographs. It was St. Martin on Shrove Tuesday, and they chased the devils out. And some of the stuff here it's a mix between Christian Catholicism from the conquistas and some ancient Zapotec Mayan type of thing. But
Sure.
they paint the devils out, but they actually paint themselves in either engine oil or like red paint. So that photograph, that's actually a father and son. They're covered in burnt engine oil.
Yeah.
They dress up and they have bells and they chase the devils out of the town.
Yep.
And one of the funny, interesting ones about that was it was there evening time. They were chasing, and usually a couple of their teens, late teens, whatever, and they catch the. I was sitting down photographing this. There's fireworks going off around the place. I still have a bit of a firework where it burned the back screen of the view screen on the back of my camera. But I didn't see them chasing one guy. I was like looking the opposite way, and at the last second I saw them, and they caught him, and it was like a scrum. Basically, they were all falling on top of me. So I lifted the camera up, and the viewfinder hit me right in the middle of the forehead. So for a week afterwards, I had the mark, like from the Catholic cross bruise on the middle of my forehead, and a few people said, "You're fairly." No, I'm not, but yes, I had that. So there are sometimes doing. I photographed. I happened to be in Santa Monica when the riots for George Floyd was going on. I'm not old enough, and the lens wasn't long enough to be photographed. I'm not able to run away fast enough. So there were a few sketchy moments in it, but that's a young person's game.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever hit a creative wall and just sat there and gone, "No, don't want to do this"?
Yeah, hell yeah. And one of the things that I do sometimes is I'll put the smallest possible memory card into the camera. Myself, I have 36 photographs for the day. Go back to when you had 36 photographs. Find something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it works, not always, but it's a good exercise because it's so easy to go bang. You just, I don't know what some of the new cameras are doing, 40, 50, 100 frames a second or something.
Oh, with the new Canon, they're pre-shooting if you're half press. Yeah. So you're getting, I think, 15 frames.
Yeah.
Before you've even actually pressed the shutter fully.
It's like that kind of going back again, and from the film days when you had to figure out what the light was supposed to be, and you weren't. Yeah. Most of the cameras, they did have a kind of a rudimentary light meter in them, and you kind of could get, but like now they're just, so you get very lazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, like I did lose my 24 to 105, and I really miss it because people say what is it, 24 to 70? I was like, no, the 24 105, I reckon it's not great. It's f4, not great for the low light, but general, if it wasn't so bloody big. But zoom in with your feet now, so I have to think, whereas now I have to get closer to people, get stuck into the action. And but you do get lazy with stuff, and again, it's one of those things that I think you have to force yourself to do them.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, if I had an A1 or an X700 or something like that with a 35mm lens on it, and that's what I got. They're small, they're compact, they can work.
Yeah.
Go out, and I'd probably do way better than I would with a digital camera because you have to get in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes away a lot of the choices that you've got, that, as you say, not necessarily saying it's lazy per se, but it does change the way that you shoot.
And it also then, I think, forces you to get a bit more creative. So it's a way around the creative block.
Yeah.
To do even say, oh, hell, whatever it is, there's something around the house. Let me photograph it. It doesn't, with digital, it doesn't make a lot of difference.
Yeah.
This is what I got. What can I make out of that?
Yeah. Where do you see photography's place in society?
That's a tough one. I think I read somewhere recently, or not recently, maybe a year or more ago, that there's more photographs taken in an hour than there was in the whole of the maybe 19th century or whatever. With there's just millions and millions of, but most of them are, quite honestly, they're moments, they're captured. People, they do them, they've got it. And there are people with phones, don't get me wrong, that are actually taking amazing photographs. They're actually photographs.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think photography is, I think it's going to keep evolving. It's going to keep developing. One of the interesting things is, I think it's Ruben Wu.
Yep.
He does stuff with the drone and that lighting thing that he does that is half photography, half video, half. And I've actually seen a number of people that are copying that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think there is photography. It's not going away. It's not going to, I don't think it's ever going to go, oh, it's a hologram. You're going to put on VR glasses and stuff like that, and you're going to be able to walk around. That'll probably come at some stage. But I think the actual physical prints hanging on a wall, you can see that whole tactile thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going anywhere. It might have a little fade a little bit. And there's another one that I'm just always in awe of are the people that do underwater, but the people that actually photograph surfing. Yeah. There's a guy, I think you might know him, Kim Feast. I've seen some of his. Yep. You're out in that's just incredible.
Yeah.
And so I don't see it going anywhere. I think in some ways the lenses and the equipment has got too fucking good.
Yeah.
And people are chasing this ultimate sharpness and they're losing the photograph. It's a bit like the surrealist painters where they're painting something that is there, or impressionists, not surrealists, but they're giving you a hint of what's there.
Yeah.
And no, okay, you don't want to take the bottom of a Coke bottle kind of photography, but maybe that has its place. Maybe there is room for that kind of.
Absolutely.
Like as I said, if you're doing, say, bird photography, you do want to see that. And if you're doing,
you want that crisp and sharp. But even there's still artistic things that you can do with movement and wings or movement in flight and whatever. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I think this is where things like ICM is probably developed from just being a trend, being more of a movement in some areas of photography. And you see some of the work of some of the really good ICM photographers, like Shona Perkins, for example. They're just the incredible impressionist landscapes of, you get a feeling for what the place is, even though you can't see all of the detail.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that is, there's something new is going to come along. And it's going to be, it's a technique or it's a whatever. No, photography ain't going away.
No, definitely not.
And even film photography is making a comeback. And so, no, I'm still excited about it. Maybe a new camera be nice. They're just getting too fucking big and complicated. I just go back to taking photographs. They have to have every thing on them. I was like, no, don't need that shit.
Yeah, but fair enough. What do you like to do when you're not out taking photos?
I just chill out. I'm not a big. I used to read a lot and I used to watch movies a lot, but I've just gotten lazy and go with short sort of documentaries or stuff, or occasionally I'll go off on some, I won't say it's fact finding, but I'll go down some rabbit hole, or I'll see something on one of the social media things, and I know it's patently wrong, and somewhere I remember the actual facts of that, and I'll go off and do a whole lot of research and I'll type out a long reply, and they're not even going to fucking read it, so I'll delete it. So I learned some new bits of information that way.
Fair enough. What's the best and or worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, the worst piece of advice. Geez, I can't think. I don't really think there is any bad advice. People can tell you stuff, but you make of it as you are. I'm not going to go into any politics, religious end of things, because there's a lot of bad advice in there. So you can edit that one out. Okay.
Fair enough.
I'm not going there.
What about good advice?
Good advice. I don't know. It's an old cliche, but be true to yourself and be true to your real friends.
Yeah. Nice. Are there any other photographers you think I should be talking to?
Yeah, I would say Irish Mick. I can't even remember his name. Michael McCaffrey.
Okay. Yep.
Donna, what's her name? Martinez.
Yeah, Donna Martinez. I've actually had her on the show. Yeah.
Oh, have you? Okay. There is another guy, Philippe Sharaf.
Okay. Yep.
He does a lot of stuff maybe with boxing now, which isn't, but he does other things as well.
Sure.
And I know his sort of Twitter name, but it's MVP.
Okay.
He does a lot of stuff it's nearly all large format, but it is people. But I just find his work fascinating.
Yeah.
There's what's his name? Dan something. He does a lot of photography around New York, sort of city. So he's doing landscapey, but it's cityscapes, but cityscapes in some ways are landscapes, because that's all you got.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just made. Yeah.
Yeah. And another guy is Ash Page. He does quite a bit with film, medium format and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen Ash's work before. Definitely got him on the list. Thank you for those. I got one more question for you, and it's quite an important one to try and get to the bottom of. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Yes. And there's actually, it's funny you should ask that, because the street burgers here are, people talk about the amazing food in Oaxaca and the mole and blah, 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 whatever. But the street food here, the clayudas and the stuff, in late night, lots of grease in them, the stuff you're not supposed to be having. But the burgers are almost like rashers. Like the meat bit is very thin, but you get two. You get some kind of cheese. Then you have a hot dog that goes on top of that.
Okay.
Split hot dog, probably some bacon, tomato. They like their cilantro. I don't like it, but there's nearly always a piece of pineapple on it, and then the bun goes on top. After some beers, that is the messiest, tastiest bloody thing you can have. So pineapple, yeah, goes well with. Oh yeah, and they have hammam. They have, and it's that pre-packaged whatever it is, but it's the ham. So the ham and the pineapple on the top of the whole lot.
Yeah, fair enough.
And they're about, round numbers, somewhere between, they're about 50 pesos, which is about what, 250 euros, maybe $3. I'm not sure what it'd be in Canadian. Or you're Canadian, Australian
dollars. Yeah, probably if it's 250 euros, probably about $5 Aussie.
Okay,
roughly.
How is that for street food?
That's pretty cheap. Yeah. You don't get much over here. You don't get much change out of $20 now if you go and get a burger here.
And just on the pricing, a bottle of Corona, which they're available everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
Depending where you are, it's about 35 to maybe 50 pesos.
Wow. Yeah.
depending on if you're in a cantina or if you're in a fancier place. Some of the fanciers are 50 and 60, but anyhow.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, Tony. It's been really wonderful getting to know you a little bit better. Where can people find your work?
Oh, I forgot to send you the link. I have the website, it's in being completely updated, but there's the Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'll actually send you the what do you call it?
Perfect. I'll include them in
Oh,
the
yes.
show notes.
Yeah, you have my Instagram one because you sent me the invitation on
That's
it.
right.
All right, and you know me on Twitter,
Yeah,
and I can send you the Facebook one.
perfect.
And at some point, I'll send the web one when I have it where I want it.
All right. Thanks again, Tony. Wonderful talking to you.
No problem. Thanks, Grant. Be good.
You too. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Vero, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.